Listen to the radio. Harry and Edna's want to show you heard it from the Three Bells.
What-o, Harry?
And what-o, Edna. And welcome. It's Harry and Edna on the Wireless, the radio show that takes you by the hand and leads you through the British vintage scene while bobbing along in the Solent. Now, we have got a very unusual show tonight. Because it's mainly you talking on the phone, which is what you can do very easily. You can talk for hours on the phone.
I could talk for hours on the phone, but this is a really interesting interview held with a lady called Isabella Bliss, and we talk about Marilyn Monroe and her career, which I know is a little bit more leaping into the new age 50s, but interesting all the same from a historical angle.
It all hits that vintage theme, which our show does follow.
Yes.
Yeah, because she has a stage show, doesn't she? She is it like a one-woman show, or do I have to listen to the interview?
Listen to the interview, but also we explore a little bit of Marilyn's kind of stage persona versus what she was like in private, and that all comes out through the interview and is explained through the stage show. So yeah, interesting.
So we'll be I won't be talking. You were talking to Isabella Bliss, and you'll be talking to her after our next track, which will be the Charleston. But before we do that, I said, what should we talk about? And I said, do we talk about me falling down the cellar? Which I did, no. And broke and I was all mangled up and mashed up.
Well, you were just about to say pain. Broke all your ribs, but I came around the corner to see you laying in a hole, because we got some steps that leads down to our cellar, and usually you access it from the outside of the house.
And you said, no, I want to talk about my woodsware china
collection. That's really nerdy, but I wanted to get away from Woe is Harry and his broken ribs, which were not broken at all. You just were stupid painful. And fell down the steps.
Yeah,
basically.
But you nearly fell down the steps too.
Yeah, but I managed to save myself from almost doing the stupid thing that you did. But
the rabbits grabbed you.
No, the rabbit hutch. I grabbed the rabbit hutch and they saved me from
just think, you and the rabbits steps. Could have gone hurtling down into the cellar.
But we didn't.
But no, you see, I thought of the rabbits. I said, no, I will not take the rabbits into the pit of doom.
The thing is, it's not a tiny hutch, it's a massive hutch, so I don't think it would have gone anywhere. It certainly didn't with me. And are you saying your body weight is far in excess of mine? That you can dislodge a massive rabbit mansion? When
I was a little boy, and I don't know if they still do it now, there used to be a story about a giant turnip, and they're trying to pull it out, and the mouse tried to pull it, and then he got the cat to help him, and then the little boy helped him, and then there was a little girl, and it's got more and more people.
And then the dog, then the cat.
Well, it's a bit like that, you see, because as you fell, the two rabbits had to grab the far end of the hutch and pull like mad to stop you falling into said cellar.
Well, said hole that leads to said cellar, yes. So I said, no, we don't want to talk about that.
No, you said let's talk about me barrel, because we've been living in this house for a good few years now, and I'm still unpacking boxes that we moved and we haven't got round, including, well, when we were a lot more hardcore living in our past, we used to use only period china and period artefacts pretty much. And then, I don't know what happened, but a load of modern stuff appeared, and now that's all got broken and fell apart. Children come along
and you put your finest vintage away, don't you, because you don't want to ruin it. And I had a slight obsession collecting Woodsbare Beryl, which is the real kind of utility green. And we went to a fun day type thing, and it was in a village hall, and they were serving their teas and cake on the blue iris, which is Woodsware. Sorry, being nerdy now.
So it's the same design, but it's just a different colour.
And like a utility blue. And it got me thinking about all the Woodsware Beryl up in our loft, still boxed up. And I said to Harry, I really fancy getting all that out again. And what set us off talking earlier was the fact that I not only do I have a massive collection, of which half of it still remains boxed in the loft because I don't know what I'm going to do with 40 teacups and saucers, but just the sheer number of different cups, saucers, plates, bowls. And we were just talking about we don't dine like we used to.
No, but part of that is because we don't have a butler to ask, so what's this plate for and what's that plate for?
Well, I was unpacking my bowls, and I've got cereal bowls, soup bowls, dessert bowls,
sugar bowls,
and it was just the small plates, the side plates, those little funny crescent moon shaped plates, large teacup, small teacup.
I think you need to know this because my good friend Andy, who's he used to be an officer in the army, told me most of his time at Sandhurst wasn't spent learning how to be a British Army officer, as in battling and school. He said it was all about how to use the right knife and fork and right plate in the mess. So he said you used the wrong knife and you had to go and shoot yourself around the back of your tent.
We were just talking about, when you have kind of services now, like dinner services, we don't have the extensive nature of soup bowls and dessert bowls and cereal bowls, do we? You just have a bowl. Well, I'm just thinking we're losing that sense of occasion, I think. Is that fair to say?
Maybe. Do you think Marilyn used soup bowls?
I would imagine you'd have your soup bowl for your soup and your dessert bowl at breakfast and your side plate for your bread and butter.
And a bouillon spoon.
Bouillon, what's that? I
don't know. I was watching a video clip on YouTube and it was Downton Abbey does reggae.
Yeah. Oh, really?
And they were talking about a bouillon spoon.
Bouillon, isn't that something that you put? Isn't that a stock that you put in a stock pot?
Being a bit nerdy, bouillon or boule was a type of mathematics formula developed by a Frenchman called Boole.
I thought bouillon was a stock that you put in a
it probably
casserole.
It isn't probably a mathematical equation if it's on Downton Abbey, is it?
No, I should imagine it's more of a stock that you put in a casserole.
Yeah.
So there we go. See, we're educational, this programme.
Yes, leave some comments in the comment section and let us know what a bouillon spoon is and what do you use.
And bring back dessert bowls, soup bowls and cereal bowls, all being three completely different sizes and shapes.
And what's the crescent moon
bit of your plate?
What's that for?
Didn't you say it was a side salad plate? Not that you'd have had side salad in those days.
I don't know. Maybe put your your bones on your chicken or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Your
I have
bones
no idea.
on your chicken.
What ho?
So welcome to the show, Isabella.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Do you want to tell us what One Night with Marilyn consists?
So One Night with Marilyn is a kind of it's not a tribute show, it's a mixture of like cabaret, tribute and comedy. So it's an evening with Marilyn, as you would imagine the Hollywood star to be, in her kind of sort of witty character, the witty comedy banter. So if to come to the show, you'll hear some of the songs from the big films. So you'll hear I Want to Be Loved by You, and My Heart Belongs to Daddy, and Diamonds Are Girl's Best Friend. And kind of I segue in between the songs talking about Marilyn's life and some of the funny anecdotes of things that happened to her, and there's some fun audience participation sections as well. So it's a real kind of feel-good evening with, where hopefully people feel really uplifted, they've enjoyed the songs, they've heard some songs they maybe didn't know, and they had a laugh and maybe learnt a thing or two about Marilyn that they didn't know before.
So when you talk about that you're featuring her songs, is that you singing or do you play clips or the full thing?
Yeah, no, it's me doing the whole shebang, so singing and all the audience interaction, the whole fun. So yeah, I sing all of her songs, hopefully as accurate as to Marilyn's voice as I can be.
Does that take some practice, or are you a finely tuned machine now?
Oh my goodness, yeah, no, it still takes plenty of practice. So in the preparation for any show that I do, I go kind of what I call like fully immersive Marilyn. So I'll watch all of her films, I'll listen to all of her interviews, and just try and absorb as much of her voice and her mannerisms as I could possibly do to bring that into the show and to actually sing the songs. It's kind of a funny story, really, because I actually was terrified of singing. I never used to sing. I was petrified. And I sort of learned to do Marilyn as a bit of a joke for a friend's birthday party. And one of my really good friends is a vocal coach, and he's named Anthony Wade, and he's called Dr. Voice, and he's voice coach to the stars. He was the man behind Sam Smith's voice.
Right.
And when I said about learning to do Marilyn for a friend's birthday, I was like, okay, I'll go to him. So I actually initially spent 6 months in really intensive singing lessons with this guy, just to sort of learn one song to do at a friend's birthday party.
Wow.
What ho?
So do you have to sound like her? Do you have to replicate her speech? Is that how you can then replicate her sound when you're singing?
Yeah, I think it comes from a really, I don't know if I do it maybe differently, in the sense of I try and get into that headspace of imagining how she would say it or what she would say. And with the body movement and the body language and the facial expressions, it all helped me then create the voice. And as well, you have to kind of tailor it to how people think Marilyn would use the sound as well. So it's always adding those little aspects into it, and the breathiness and the fun kind of laugh and giggle that she had, that really carefree laugh, is really important to capture. But yeah, I kind of go on a really immersive experience with it to try and get her, obviously because I'm not American as well, I'm having to learn the accent and stuff. So yeah.
So do you have to sort of deconstruct the song and then construct it again using the way and the phraseology, I guess, that she pronounced words and phrases?
Yeah, definitely. So when I'm learning new songs or working on the tracks, I will sit and listen to each kind of verse or chorus, sometimes breaking it down line by line, and I'll play it, and then I'll try and emulate that, and then I'll play it again and emulate it, and just try and get it as much as I can. And then also, sometimes I find as well that my voice just will not go to a place where hers is, and then I have to kind of mechanically think, okay, well, how can I make my voice work the best way that I can, but also so it will seem like hers. So there's sometimes that as well.
Is that where the coaching helps? Does it help you to stretch your voice and your range to achieve those?
Yeah, for sure. We certainly had the trouble when I first started singing of like where my voice would naturally sit vocally, and sometimes hers is quite a bit lower than mine. So we had to really learn different vocal techniques to get my voice to go down there. The doc has got an amazing range of vocal exercises, and I literally have 13 different vocal exercises that I do pretty much every day, just to exercise my vocal cords in different places that I maybe would not necessarily normally use, just so it gives that range of being able to create some of the nuances in Marilyn's singing voice. Because although she's not known as a great singer, she had a little bit more technicality to her voice, in the vibratos and the way that she made certain sounds were very different. So, yeah, it takes a bit of work.
What ho?
Did you say you sort of first got into this because of singing a song at a friend's birthday? Have you then since sort of fallen in love with Marilyn? Has that helped to develop the show, or was there a fascination with?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I grew up as a little girl watching all the old Hollywood movies and the musicals, and I loved it. And so I'd seen a fair few of Marilyn's films and knew a little bit about her. So when I started sort of doing it, I was like, okay, I need to go 100% deep with this and look at all the aspects of her life. So it was somebody that I already admired in Hollywood, but maybe for different reasons initially, and now I kind of have found a totally different love and admiration for her in learning so much about her life and who she was and what she kind of stood for, and how misunderstood she was a lot of the time. You know, she's incredibly pioneering for her time to be one of the first women in Hollywood to actually set up her own production company.
Wow.
Which in 50s America was just unheard of. You know, women didn't have that kind of sort of freedom of expression, and she went ahead and set up her own production company and produced her own film. Those about her really inspiring, that actually, you know, she wasn't this kind of dumb blonde that people would assume she was.
Yeah.
She was actually a very bright, articulate woman that knew what she wanted and wasn't afraid to go out and get it. And I think that's a story that can resonate with us in today's society, of like, don't be afraid to go out there and get what you want and set your goals on it. And that's something that I kind of take from her braveness against...
In a very different time.
Yeah, definitely. That's what you have to kind of remember is, you know, you're talking like 69 years ago in the 50s when, you know, it just wasn't heard of for women to speak out about what their wants and desires were. Women were very much seen and not heard in those times. And especially in the way that she owned who she was, and she owned her sexuality and her feminism, adored Ella Fitzgerald as a musical artist. And obviously for that time in America, like black women singing in certain venues was just still not... Venues were very selective about who they would have. Yeah. And Ella Fitzgerald wanted to perform at the, I think it's called the Mukamambo in LA.
Yeah.
And the venue said, no, we won't have Ella. She's too big. She's not glamorous enough. And she's a black woman. We can't have her at our venue. And Marilyn found out about this, and she actually called the venue herself and said, look, if you book Ella Fitzgerald, I will come to your venue every night you book her, and I'll take a table at the front. She did that, and true to her word, she was there every night Ella was on, and she brought her celebrity friends with her, Frank Sinatra and all of those kind of people. And I think to be that kind of strong woman in that day, and to use your celebrity in a way that actually helps people and supports other artists, was really a really beautiful thing, and a lot could be learnt from that, maybe.
What ho?
Sometimes when you're recording this show or whatever, it's like being in Carradine's Cockney Sing-Along. It really is. Anyway, you are listening, in case you're wondering, to Harry and Edna on the Wireless. This is a radio show where we take you by the hand and we guide you through all that's going on in the current British vintage scene, and I hope you enjoy the show. If you want to contact us, well, the social media is probably the easiest way. We are Harry and Edna on the Wireless on Facebook. Look us up. We are the only ones. Just do the Facebook search. And we are also on Instagram as Harry and Edna Presents, because somebody else already got the Harry and Edna. So remember, Instagram, it's Harry and Edna Presents. Do follow us, because we love hearing from you, and like and click and all that sort of thing. And that'll be brilliant. We're going back to Isabella Bliss in a few moments.
What ho?
I guess through your show as well, do you sort of do a bit of myth busting? Because people do perceive Marilyn as being a bit of a dumb blonde that was a sex icon.
Known for, she had a great book collection that she would study philosophers and psychology and lots of different aspects, and even down to things in how she created the way that she walks. She studied body posture through books. It's very difficult for me in an hour, because I'm very condensed with an hour show, to get as much, there's so much backstory on her and so much information that I want to get across to the audience. Sometimes I have to be really specific about picking elements out of okay, I want to get this bit of information across that people wouldn't know, but then I also need to make it funny as well, because I don't want to just be, it would maybe be a different show that I would need to write to actually talk about her life in a more in-depth perspective, which maybe one day that is something that I'll go on to do.
Yeah.
But certainly with the show at the minute, I keep it informational but light-hearted, so I kind of drip a little bit of information into people and then finish it with a punchline, just to sort of keep the flow of the kind of feel of the comedy aspect to the show. But I would hope that people would learn something about her, or at least be interested to go away and read a little bit more about her and look into her life.
So do you have a little teaser for our listeners about your show? Do you have a sort of story that's from the show that you could just sort of give them a flavour of? The
show, I would say, is a completely immersive experience. So if you're going to come and sit near the front, expect to be a part of the show.
Fair warning.
Very much, it is an immersive evening with. It's not me standing on a stage talking at you, singing at you. I want to get amongst the audience and get to know them and make them feel part of the show. And there's certainly a few opportunities in the show for the audience members to become a part of it. So I would say that's a little a teaser there. If you come along, you've got to watch out, because you may well be a part of the show.
What ho?
And so how can people find out more about your show? I guess there must be a website here somewhere.
So you can go on to, it's on at the Museum of Comedy, which is a wonderful venue, but the Museum of Comedy comes under the Leicester Square Theatre Group. So if you were to go onto the Leicester Square Theatre website, you should be able to find the show. It's on Saturday the 14th of September. At 7 p.m. So yeah, you can find it on there, or if people are on social media and they want to follow me on social media, you can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and I'm always posting kind of show information at the moment, and bits and pieces and some sneak peeks and stuff. So yeah, but mainly if they would go to the Leicester Square Theatre Group website and look for One Night with Marilyn, you would be able to find it there and book the tickets direct online or call the box office. It's a bargain of a show. The tickets are just £10. So
wow.
I don't think there's many places in London you can go and see a full show for £10.
Yep.
So on my Facebook, you can find me under Isabella Bliss. My Instagram is @Miss_Isabella_Bliss.
So do you have other characters up your sleeve, or is Marilyn sort of the main thing that you do, main performance that you do?
Still, alongside this, I'm actually a burlesque performer as well. So I've been performing in burlesque for about 7 or 8 years now.
Yeah.
And I've toured with Europe's largest touring burlesque show called An Evening of Burlesque, which has been a wonderful experience. We've done all theatres all around the UK and Europe and seen many audiences. And actually, the poster girl for the show, and I do the giant martini, kind of giant champagne glass. That's my signature act that you will see me do if you come to one of those shows. So I do the kind of Hollywood glamour side of burlesque as well. And then kind of for fun, actually, I do a Jessica Rabbit kind of look-alike burlesque act, where I sing Jessica Rabbit songs. But that's mainly kind of in the burlesque scene that I tend to do Jessica. Marilyn is the only character that stands alone.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to challenge myself, because I'd been performing in burlesque for 7 or 8 years, and with burlesque I never spoke with my act. It was always dancing and, you know, the poise and the elegance and the big costumes, and I loved that. As a person, I always like to progress, and I always think you should do the thing that you're terrified of most to challenge yourself. So I kind of started to transition into working more and doing the Marilyn. So it was a totally new thing for me to have to learn, to be able to talk to an audience, you know, have that interaction and learning the songs, and it was so much to take on for somebody that I don't come from musical theatre training. Everything is picked up along the way, and studying people and going to shows. Other than my vocal lessons, I've not had any kind of acting training and bits and pieces. So to learn the comedy side of it and stuff has been a wonderful challenge. And
what ho?
Sorry, just touching on the burlesque aspect. What is it like when you tour with a big burlesque show like that? Is there a difference in the audiences from the UK to Europe?
Yeah, you do notice a difference from country to country, and certainly when you're travelling some of these European countries, if you're in a town in Europe where they would speak a lot of English, it's fine. If you're in a town in Europe where they would not speak a lot of English, it can be very difficult for the host and compere that's holding the show, because the host and compere of a burlesque show does the songs and comedy in between and gets the audience going of like, oh, you know, you see a lady remove a glove, go wild. And they can't really explain that to people that don't understand the language. And it's not to say I don't think the audience actually enjoy it any less. They really, you know, because burlesque is still very visual.
Yeah.
They just maybe don't know the cues. And the same for like some countries are more reserved than others. So
that's what I was wondering, how the audience interact and kind of participate in their reaction to what you're doing.
Burlesque is quite a funny one. It's like, and sometimes certain countries and certain places in England for sure, because we're quite stiff upper lip in England. So with burlesque, you kind of want people like, oh, you've taken off a glove, you want the audience to go mad, you've taken off a stocking, you want that reaction.
Yeah.
And in some towns and some places you get that, and people get it, and they're loud and they're crazy and they're loving it. But then in other places, people are they can be quiet the whole way through your performance, and then at the end you take your bows and they all go crazy. And it doesn't mean that they've enjoyed it any less, it's just that that's how they show their enjoyment, is they're respectful and polite while you're performing and just want to show you at the end. You just learn that, I guess, as the places that you travel, that some audiences are going to be more noisy than others, but people are just sometimes quietly enjoying it as well.
What ho?
With touring, do you think you would tour with One Night with Marilyn?
I would love to tour with One Night with Marilyn. You would. I think that's the kind of dream, really, is so I've sort of always had this plan of, I started doing Marilyn as guest slots on other people's burlesque and cabaret shows, with the intention of writing the whole Marilyn show. But always in the back of my head, there's always been that plan and that dream of taking what I'm working on now and transitioning it into a small theatre show, with, you know, a little band and stage props and stuff. That to me would be probably the dream right now, is to tour with doing Marilyn, and then being that it would be a theatre production, I could add so much more to it, and, you know, get more of these details across, and maybe have you know, a projector on screen as well, that just adds to me being able to give people the best version of Marilyn that I can in a bigger space and to a bigger audience.
So it's kind of watch this space, keep an eye on your Twitter and your Instagram or your Facebook and see what comes, I guess, in the future for you.
What ho?
Well, there you go. That's your lot. It's time for Harry and Edna and the Wireless to sign off. Don't forget, if you want to get hold of us, we're on harryandedna.co.uk, and we'd love to hear from you. We'll be back, as we always are, bringing you another insight into the current British UK vintage scene.
What ho?